Hello everyone, welcome to Jack Talks Cars and this first episode ever of Wheel Talk. So I've been thinking for a little while about how I'm going to push this channel forwards and bring you guys some fresh new content, and this is going to be it. It's going to be a segment where I talk about some of the cars that I've reviewed and driven and enjoyed during my day job over at Rybrook TV. I did think about trying to, whilst filming those cars, take some of that content and bring it all together to create a separate video for this channel. But to be honest with you, I tried it, it didn't really work. So instead, I'm creating this whole new segment, as I say, Wheel Talk, where I'm going to be doing a little bit more talking direct to yourselves from my state-of-the-art recording studio, which is actually a very damp, dirty, spider's web-filled garage, where I'm able to now just talk to you about some of the cars I reviewed over on my day job channel, which is Rybrook TV, which you can, follow by clicking the link in the description below if you want to see what we're putting out there. But yeah, welcome to the first episode of Wheel Talk. In this episode of Wheel Talk, we're going to be taking a look at the all-new BMW M3 and M4. Oh, this car. Oh, it's so much fun. I'm just going to keep driving it like an absolute lunatic for the next few minutes whilst I gather my thoughts. So I did a video, as I've just mentioned, with the guys over at Rybrook TV and Matt Smart Cars. You can follow his Instagram below, by the way. If you click on the link there, that'll take you through to Matt Smart Cars Instagram. You can also find him on YouTube if you just search for him at the top. He's my colleague, and the two of us came together at Rybrook TV and we managed to create some content for those guys on the new M3 and M4. This video, on the other hand, isn't going to be talking specifically about, we're not going to duplicate what I've put out on there. If you want to watch it, you can head over, subscribe to that channel and, watch the videos and the content that we create on there. This is more an opportunity for me to give you my afterthoughts. Now I've had a chance to kind of process how that experience was and what that car was really like, and give you some information and things that maybe didn't make it off the cutting room floor for that video, and give you my own thoughts and opinions in an environment which is controlled by me. It's my channel, so yeah, I'm going to be able to put this stuff out there and hopefully tell you a little bit more about what I felt and how that car was for me to drive. Hopefully I'm not too late to the party, with the M3 and M4 launch being a few weeks back now. Hopefully you'll still find this quite interesting. I know that I found it a bit eye-opening driving those cars. It was a real experience for myself, and I'm going to be really honest with you, when I was told I was going to be driving the new M3 and M4, I was like a kid at Christmas, because the M3 hopefully means something to all of you guys as well. That badge M3, as I said in the Rybrook TV video, it has history and heritage behind it. This is a badge that means something to a lot of people. It's the sort of car that, if your grandparents were into cars, they would have aspired to own. It's the sort of car that when you were younger and you went to a BMW dealership with your parents, it's the car that you as a kid would have probably drooled all over, clambered all over, left your fingerprints on the door handles and got in, and imagined yourself driving that when you're old enough, whilst your parents probably looked around the more sensible 320Ds or 5 Series and stuff like that. The M3 was the one that, as a child, that was the one to have, and that was the one you always dreamed that your parents would put their hand in their pocket and buy, and just be a bit crazy at that point and buy that silly car instead of the more sensible, more economical option. The M3 has always been the pinnacle of BMW's ability to create a performance car. With each iteration of M3, BMW somehow managed to capture the essence of what's important in a sports saloon at that particular moment in time. So when the launch of a new M3 and M4 comes around, it's a really big moment in the petrolhead community, or at least I feel it was. And all you have to do is look in the magazines and go on YouTube and go on Facebook and Instagram and all that to see just how important the launch of these two new cars really was. It was filled with anticipation and excitement within the community. And to be given the keys, I can't stress this enough, I think I've already kind of outlined it within the video, to be given the keys to these cars for my first video, yeah, it was a mind-blowing moment. It was a real pinch myself, how lucky am I? Since then, I've had time to process my own thoughts and, my own opinions on the car. Styling's the obvious place to start, so should we just jump straight in there? It's been talked to death, so I'll keep it brief, but I really like them. They've really grown on me. As I said before, I was a very big critic when I first saw the press pictures. I wasn't keen at all. That front end looked just ridiculous when I first saw it. It was on the wrong coloured car for one. I did not like it on that car, in that yellow. It just looks ridiculous, and it just, without the number plate, there was just something about it that just did not look or sit right with me. But now I've seen them in the flesh, I've seen them in the showrooms, I've driven them, I've spent time with them. Honestly, in the right colour, those two we tested at Rybrook TV, they were perfect examples of how colour can contrast that front end with that carbon pack and all that extra carbon fibre that was all over the M3. Yeah, honestly, it's a great looking car. Some people will call it fussy, some people call it over the top. It's got praying mantis face, it's all like teeth and all buck tooth and stuff, but no, for me, it really, really works. It's bold, it's daring, and you know, at the end of the day, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And for me, personally, I think it all works. I think it pulls together absolutely fantastically. My opinion on the M4 is still out. I'm not quite sure that works. The rear arches aren't quite as aggressive as they are on the M3. It doesn't feel as hunkered down, it doesn't feel as squat around the rear as the M3 does. There's a bit of an awkward overhang on that boot as well. I'm not sold on the M4 styling. I am completely and utterly sold on the M3 though. I think it is a great looking car. Feel free to contradict me in the comments, tell me how wrong I am, because I know many of you out there still absolutely think it's honking. But me, personally, no, I'm sold on it. I would drive it. I'm a big fan. Oh, I don't care what you think of me as you watch me drive this car. I am having a great time. So that's enough about the styling. Let's talk about how the cars actually drove, shall we? So I'm not going to take away from the fact that both cars were incredibly capable, and they were going to be, weren't they? On paper, they are a petrol head's dream. 510 brake horsepower, straight 6 engine, twin turbo, rear wheel drive. That sounds phenomenal. And to a point they were fantastic cars to drive. The power delivery that they give is almost instantaneous. Between you pushing that accelerator and it pushing you back in your seat, it's almost naturally aspirated in its delivery. And the fact that they rev out to just over 7,000 RPM as well, again, that's a characteristic you'd normally only get from, well, like my 130i, for example. But a naturally aspirated straight 6, that is a characteristic you get from that. The power is just there right the way through the band. The difference with these was they've obviously still got loads of torque, whereas naturally aspirated runs out of puff. These just keep going because those turbos are just spooling up and delivering more and more power. So that was fantastic. And it was quite surprising as well because these cars are what? Over 1,700 kilograms? That's very, very, very heavy for a sports saloon. Normally you get those sorts of performance figures like a 0-60 in just under 4 seconds. That's normally achieved by stripping weight out. But with these cars, they've actually added weight in from the last generation, and yet they're still marginally quicker. So yeah, they did a really good job of hiding all that extra weight as well. That power delivery does a fantastic job of hiding that weight. It wasn't just in a straight line that these cars massed their weight well either. See, in the corners the chassis copes phenomenally well. And the steering feel, the feedback it gives you and makes you feel connected to the road, it's almost analogue in its feeling. And it's one of those things that, again, you don't know how they do it, but the engineers behind this car have done an amazing job of taking modern technology and still making it feel more analogue and more involving than you'd expect. Surprisingly, all of us agreed that the M4 felt a little bit sharper on turn-in, felt a little bit more confident in itself, which is a bit of a surprise because it actually had the standard wheel and tyre package on it, whereas the M3 had the upgraded Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres on. But overall we felt the M4 handled marginally, and I'm talking marginally better than the M3. The M3 though, with that, felt more of a compliant car to use every day, which again for me was fantastic because I've always said the M3 is that every man's sports car, isn't it? It's something that you can use every single day to run to and from the shops, drop the kids at school and then take it out and absolutely beast it along your favourite roads. Now whilst they handle really well, they could also be quite playful because the torque that engine provides could quite easily overwhelm the rear wheels, and you could quite easily get a bit of opposite lock on and get that back end stepping out, even when you got the traction control turned on. But I reckon if you turn that traction control off, you could very easily get that back end to step right out. And it's the sort of car that filled you with enough confidence to know that you could quite easily catch that and get it back round again, because as I've mentioned, they also offer bags and bags and bags and bags of grip, which is weird for a rear-wheel drive sports car because it almost, when driving in the circumstances we were driving in and to the conditions of the road, it still filled you with confidence. I don't want to over egg it and go too far the other way, but I am going to say it almost felt Audi Quattro-esque. It wasn't a chassis that I instantly recognised when driving it as rear-wheel drive. So to summarise, the handling is very, very good. Yeah, it fills you with confidence. The way it responds to your inputs is excellent. So the tiniest little input through that steering wheel, you feel it, you know that it's listening to you and you're connected to it, and it's also sending you messages back, so you know when you're pushing on too far and you're being a bit silly with it, it will tell you before you end up in the nearest hedge. And the power delivery was biblical. That engine, honestly, in a straight line, it's very, very fast, almost savagely quick. So it sounds like the perfect car, doesn't it? It's, you know, everything on paper is adding up, and what I've said about it now is all glowing. It sounds like the absolute perfect car, and you should be waiting to get yourself down the dealership and get one bought, or, you know, if you can't afford the £100 and something thousand price that they are at the moment, waiting for them to hit the used market, because we all know that M3s will depreciate and will become a much more accessible car in the next few years. So, you know, it might be something that's now on your wish list of a car to buy, but before you rush out and get one, let me just tell you about a few of the things that were niggling and put me a little bit off the whole experience. The engine is powerful. Now, as I've mentioned, it's biblically quick, very, very powerful car, but there was little to no drama when I was driving it. The noise it makes was all synthetic. It almost, because of that, felt strangled, and like it was, how do I put it? It doesn't have that drama that you want from an engine. It doesn't make me want to drive it hard. It didn't make me want to push it on. I could, and the power was all there, and all the way through the rev range there was power being pushed through the entire way, which is great, but it's not a sound or an experience that makes you want to knock it down a gear, sit in the upper echelons of that rev range and really, really sing it in and soak it up. If anything, I find myself changing up a gear sooner, because it just sounded, to me at least, inside the car, just too synthetic, too fake, and it started, by the end of the first day, it started to grate on me a little bit, and not in the right way. It wasn't an exhausting sound of, I want to hear this V8 engine screaming. It was a straight six engine that just sounded a little bit too computer generated, and that really disappointed me, because when you're buying a car like this, you want to be, you know, enjoying that every single inch of that rev band. I didn't fill my ears with that 6-cylinder shrill that I get from my own 130i. It didn't make me kind of, you know, as I say, want to drop it down again and really wring its neck, which is a real shame, because it is a great engine and it has so much power. Yeah, it was a great thing to drive, but it was just lacking the oral thrill that I think it should have had. And that leads me on to the gearbox. See, it's a very good gearbox. It's a ZF box that's fitted in a wide range of BMWs. But for this particular application, for me, it just felt a little bit too soft. It was very usable, and it made the car very usable in every circumstance, which is a great selling point for the M3. But even with the gearbox turned up to its most ferocious setting on that ferocity button, it still just lacked that bit of drama. It almost felt like I was driving a very well-tuned M340i, because it just didn't have that aggression and that attack that you kind of expect from a high, especially one that costs as much, a performance car, a high-end performance car. So with those 2 points in mind, I found myself asking, where was the edge with this car? Where was the assault on my sensors? Where was the attack on my nerves? Why was I all right at the end of the day after 3 days driving it? Why didn't I feel exhausted? Why weren't my ears ringing? And the answer to all those questions are, well, in the fact that the car is just too sensible. It's too easy. It was just too clinical to be, for me at least, the perfect performance saloon. Now, I'd probably change my mind if you strapped me into the passenger seat, put a professional driver in the driver's seat and turned all the traction off. Then it might be a completely different kettle of fish. But this isn't a car that's going to spend most of its life on a racetrack. This car was designed to be an everyday performance car. And at that price point, with that M3 badge on the back, I still want a little bit of drama. Even with all those driver's aids turned on, you still want to have that little bit of drama and that little bit of enjoyment and character in its driving. And it just didn't offer enough of an extra driving characteristic over the equivalent M340i in my opinion. And that's going to be a bold statement. Again, people in the comments are going to absolutely rinse me for that, but that is genuinely where my head was at of driving this car. I just couldn't fathom the price point of the M3 versus the equivalent spec M340i. Now, just to give you some perspective on that, this car starts at £75,000, and then you're going to be opting a £7 carbon pack to get those carbon fibre bucket seats that you need in these cars to make them stand out. Never mind the fact that you're also going to be opting another couple of grand's worth of wheels and tyres, because having driven the M3 on the standard, the upgraded wheels, sorry, and the M4 on the standard wheels, you are going to want the upgraded wheels and tyre package. Before you know it, you're running yourself into £100,000. So just think about what else is available at £100,000 at that price point, and really, when you're spending that money on a performance car, you want that drama and that excitement and that thrill. And to be completely level, I just couldn't bring myself to find that in that car. Now, as I've said, I don't want to take away from these cars. They are brilliant cars, absolutely fantastic all-round packages, and you know, and you will drive it and enjoy it. I'm not saying you won't enjoy it, but unfortunately, as I said at the very top of this film, it's a car that captures the moment in time that we're currently in with performance cars, and that's one where we're entering a whole new world of performance cars, aren't we? We're entering an entire new world of motoring. Like, gone are the days of high performance, big capacity engines, loud exhausts, because we're entering a world of even more stringent emission standards, tighter emission standards, which mean more and more electrics, which means more and more synthetic sounds, which means performance cars will be strangled, they will be synthetic, they will have all those flaws that I've just outlined in the M3, because to be in existence, they need to fit a pigeonhole that's trying to kill them. So in that very logic, the M3 does a fantastic job, and the M4, sorry, both of them do a fantastic job of just existing in this time that we're currently in. If you've been fortunate enough to drive one as well though, do let me know in the comments below and tell me your thoughts. I'd love to find out what other people thought of the cars and whether it's just me or whether my opinions, you know, do kind of match up with some of your experiences of those cars. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. I've been Jack, this has been Jack Talks Cars, episode 1 of Wheel Talk. Please make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon to get more notifications when I do more videos, and like the video, or you know, hit the dislike video, thumbs down if you really didn't like it, but then tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can improve for the next one. Alright, see you guys later, thanks very much.